As we do approach the end of the year, end of 2020, one of the brightest lights, let's face it, there's been a lot of darkness this year, has been Drew McIntyre. I mean, he is now a two-time WWE champion. He's a babyface you can get behind. He's always confident. People are always like, oh, Drew McIntyre, you look so great. It makes me feel all warm and fuzzy and happy in my tum-tum. And that did carry on the latest episode of Raw, which we are going to talk about. But before we get there, I have to give you this week's Retro Ups and Downs poll. Because you have decided you would like to vote for Armageddon 2000. And if it doesn't win, that's going away for a while because it's been on that damn thing so many times. SummerSlam 1992, you know, UK, woohoo, hey, which I do have a story about, by the way. The Raw, when Undertaker took on Jeff Hardy for the World Championship, or the Raw, where Mankind won his first ever WWF title. Go to the community tab right now and get your ass voted. But before then, we take this, the finger of power, and we say, my name is Simon from WhatCulture, and let's up those downs from the latest and very strange Monday Night Raw. A Moment of Bliss kicked off Raw this week. Her guest was Randy Orton. It was really, really, really odd. Bliss's new character is great, and she acted all shocked that The Fiend had got involved in Randy Orton's match last week, and as if he couldn't tell what was going on, Randy Orton took the bait and he's all like, hey man, I don't know The Fiend as well as you know The Fiend, as if he wanted to take him out for brunch. He went on to say that while there are some similarities, the biggest difference is that while the serial killer shows all of the emotions on his face, Orton buries them away in his brain, which is why he hears voices in his head. He then had the best line, potentially, of the entire year when he was like, do you remember when I faced Bray Wyatt and I found his weakness and I burnt down his shack? Well, now I think I need to do that again, and I think I found The Fiend's weakness, which is you, Alexa Bliss, which insinuated he was going to burn Alexa Bliss. Just gonna set her on fire. Do not do it. Bliss didn't really care about this, and they got in each other's face. They were like, oh, what's going on? Who's kidding around? And then, of course, the lights went off. We got all the rah, rah, Bray Wyatt noises. And then, even more bizarrely, when the lights came back on, Randy Orton was holding Alexa Bliss. The Fiend was all up in arms, like, no, please don't hurt Alexa Bliss. And then Randy Orton passed her over as if she was some kind of prop or some kind of tool. And then he left. I think on paper this probably looked really good, but in practice it was just so confusing, and they all kept talking in riddles. They never actually said one straight sentence. And I'm all right with going back to this feud, especially because we've kind of reversed the roles. But yeah, all of this, well, it's kind of gibberish, and it's getting it down. It's then time for the third ever Symphony of Destruction match, and thank goodness for that. I know, I've been waiting for another one. But much like the final chapter between Seth Rollins and Rey Mysterio, the commentators once again went, hey, it's the final chapter between Jeff Hardy and Elias. Now, one, don't use the same taglines for two different programs, but also, you told me it was the final one a few weeks ago, and now we're having another match. And I bet after this one, we get another match. But look though, given what happened at the end here, I cannot crap on it. It was just too much effort, so it's getting it up. There was some nonsense at the start with the 24/7 title while R-Truth popped out of a piano, but it did mean one of the chasing pack was Grandmother Metalik, and who doesn't enjoy seeing their nan over the holiday season, so that was fine. Elias and Hardy then started hitting each other with musical instruments, which is a perfectly normal thing to do, although at one point Elias had like half of a guitar, he went to jab Jeff Hardy, Hardy moved, he went into a speaker, and for some reason, that electrocuted him. Like, that is not a real thing that would happen in real life. In fact, the only place it would go down is flipping Bugs Bunny. But yeah, the ending. This is what we have to talk about. Because Jeff set up a table on the outside, he lay Elias on it, he then climbed to the top and he gave him a swanton bomb. Oh yeah, and in between all that, he'd also put a bunch of the musical instruments on top of the former Drifter. But when he hit this flood me sideways, why the hell did they do it so close to the steel steps? Jeff Hardy's skull just went crashing into it, and I went, well, he's dead, that's it, we finally killed off Jeff. It looked horrible and scared the absolute crud out of me, but apparently he's okay. But honestly, for that one spot, which was ludicrous, that's why I'm not going to be mean about it. Also, Elias has never won a feud. Go through every single program he's had, he never comes out the other side as anything but a massive loser. There was just more madness backstage because Riddle approached Keith Lee, and this new character that Riddle is playing is basically, yo brah, I smoke a load of pot and I say a load of stupid stuff. And it shouldn't be good, and it should be rubbish, and we should go on about this all the time, but just the way he does it damn it, I find it quite entertaining. I mean, he just rambled on and on and on here as Keith Lee was trying to get ready for his big match later. And then at one point the camera zoomed into Riddle's face. He made an Austin Powers joke, which is about 25 years too late. And then when the camera zoomed back, Keith Riddle had clearly just walked off, and Riddle's all like, oh man, where did he go? He would have seen him, but then my brain went, actually, he could be so stoned off his brain that maybe he wouldn't. And we get more of this later. And again, every time I get a little smile on my face and then I try and pull it back down, I'm enjoying it in spite of myself. And all right, look, Retribution. I like all of these guys. I think they're all crazy talented, especially Mustafa Ali. But this whole group just seems to get worse and worse and worse. Down. Now, the group did cut a promo beforehand when they talked about letdowns and false promises, and that was pretty decent. And then Ricochet responded, and you may have seen this on social media already this week, but this is how we have to do Ricochet promos from now on. He was backstage, and he was looking away from the camera, and he was all angry, and he was all pissed off. It made him feel like a real human being. The problem with it is, though, every time Retribution are in the ring, you just get shenanigans. Their MO when they arrived in the place was to seek and destroy and beat things up and blow up and have explosions, but instead they just get in a kerfuffle. It's like you're watching a cartoon. Because it was Ricochet versus Slapjack, and then towards the end, of all the people, Dana Brooke arrived. She slapped Ali right in the face. That triggered such a fracas that members of Retribution were trying to take out Ricochet, as the ref just looked on like, ha ha ha, I'm having a good time, who cares about the rules? And when finally Rick did go after Ali, it caused him some kind of confusion, and Slapjack hit his big move and just won. But he didn't win because there was about 72,911 other things going on, so nobody won. Everybody lost. It just made no sense on any level and is extra proof that Retribution are not backing up their threats. And I understand why Dana Brooke did this. She's probably really bored of sitting in the back doing nothing. I get it. And then, can you believe it? For the first time in a very long time, we had 2 talk shows on a Monday Night Raw because we were getting Miz TV. And when WWE does have 2 talk shows, I run my own. Roll it. Hello and welcome to Simon Says, my talk show with my good friend here, the puppet version of me. Dude, I haven't seen you in ages. How are you today?
You.
Got to be kidding me. Ow! That guy just makes me really sad, and he affects my confidence. Anyway, it was the Miz and John Morrison, and their special guest was Sheamus, and basically later on it is going to be Drew McIntyre and Sheamus taking on Miz and Morrison. So Miz and Morrison just proceeded to say, hey Sheamus, you suck, you're rubbish, you claim to be friends with Drew McIntyre, but he's gone to the top of the card and you're just sitting on the sidelines. And I was like, 2 weeks ago, he was literally on a Team Raw that swept Team SmackDown. I think he's doing all right. Still, it annoyed the Irishman enough that he went to beat both of them up, but then he fell foul to the numbers game, and he fell foul to the Money in the Bank briefcase because Miz just hit him over and over and over again, and then Sheamus piped up like, oh fella, I'm really annoyed. Now this did go too long, and sometimes the Miz and John Morrison need to sort of rein in what they're saying, but the good thing here is that it was the start of a tease about what was going to happen in the Money in the Bank, and that's why I enjoyed it. I also really like the friendship between Sheamus and Drew McIntyre. It makes me feel like everything is going to be all right in the world. So we can have an up. Probably an undeserved one, but one of the same. What I just can't get into, though, is all the Women's Tag Team Championship stuff. It baffles me that we didn't create a new team, or we didn't get a new team ready, and instead we're just using the Women's Singles Champion, who should be in a feud on her own. Because of all those things I just said, down. But it was Shayna Baszler and Nia Jax in the back where they made it very clear that the worst thing that can happen in the entire world is somebody losing to Lana. So you can break up with your boyfriend, or you can lose your job, or you can waste all your cash on some kind of Ponzi scheme. But if you lose to Lana, you're a massive loser, and you should take your head and you should put it into a toilet. So of course we then had that tag team match, and after Asuka had kneed Shayna Baszler in the head, even though she was the illegal person in the ring, Lana kind of fell onto Shayna Baszler and got the 1, 2, 3. So it's yet another fluke win for the former Russian. Baszler was livid after this because, of course, she had said this is the worst thing in the world that can happen. And I just don't get what we're going to do with this. Are we going to make Asuka and Lana the tag team champions, and Lana wins the belt after, I don't know, she slips on a banana skin and somehow rolls somebody up and get the 1, 2, 3? It's just not helping anybody. It's not helping the tag team championships. It's not helping the women's championship. And while I think the idea is for it to build Lana, I don't think it's helping her either. And every time I mention this too, there's always one comment that goes and just spouts out a load of nonsense. I'm not saying these aren't talented people. In fact, I think anybody gets to the top of the mountain has already won. If you make it to WWE or AEW, boy howdy, what a thing you have achieved. But the story here is baloney. and you only put bologna in sandwiches. McIntyre and Sheamus were then being super good buddies pals in the back. I mean, this may as well come with a disclaimer that says Sheamus will absolutely turn on Drew McIntyre, but I'm just enjoying it. And Sheamus was all mad because he'd been hit by a briefcase, and Drew was like, hey, you should enjoy it because you're a physical specimen. Sheamus agreed, and then they were like, we're going to win later, and then we'll go have a drink or something. It's just a very nice relationship. It makes me pleased. Raw then roared again. Down. And I love the New Day and the Hurt Business because I think they're great, but the fact that they are still feuding is absolutely baffling. Now, Kofi Kingston and Xavier Woods are out here to not only say, hey, Xavier Woods made it as the new host of G4, which is absolute tremendous, that guy is smashing it, but also to allow Xavier Woods to go through all of the times the Hurt Business have already lost to the New Day, as he said, they're crap, why would anybody ever give them another shot? But then out came MVP with his bunch of cronies, and Xavier Woods could even be heard on camera saying, don't we have any other teams? So even he gets it. The Hurt Business's reasons for losing was that it was all just a massive fluke, and then Cedric Alexander attacked Xavier Woods, and we were gonna have that match. And with everything I just said, you do have to move it to one side, because they did have a singles contest, and of course it was good. These two are really good. There was no stupidness here either, which made it even better. And yeah, Cedric Alexander just hit the lumbar check after Xavier Woods had fought valiantly, and he got the 1, 2, 3. Now, you know, next week we're going to do Shelton Benjamin versus Kofi Kingston, but that's the issue here. It's like we're just putting it into boxes, and instead of coming up with some cool tag team feud, it's exactly like the women's division. Stop going back to the world. There was also some weirdness afterwards with Alexander, because Cedric started celebrating as if he just won the lottery, and he left MVP and Shelton Benjamin in the ring, and they looked at him very distastefully. You do not need to break up the Hurt Business so soon. You don't even need to pretend that you're going to break up the Hurt Business so soon. So this scared the bejeez out of me, but I suppose we'll wait and see. Maybe it was just a little funny skit. There was then more craziness with Riddle in the back, but once again, somehow it tickled me in my tum-tum, because he went up to Omos and AJ Styles, and he was talking about being called Skipper and his rabbit, and somehow Omos knew about his bunny, but that's called Skipper, and then AJ Styles was like, this is ridiculous, bunnies don't skip, he should be called Hop, but Riddle's turtle or tortoise is called Hop. It was just an absolute stream of consciousness. And yet by the end of it, once again, this little smile going, I'm like, no, get down, smile. I am a buffoon. AJ pushed him away because he was sick of it. And yeah, I know this was our build for the #1 contender match. They probably could have taken it more seriously, but as an absolute dumbass, I got a kick out of it. And this did lead to our #1 contender match between Keith Lee, Riddle, and AJ Styles. And it was just a barrel of fun. From the off, Lee was treated like a monster here, and that's exactly what we need to do each and every single time. Because not only was he like, rah, look at my strength, but he also had the agility, and it's these two things together that make Keith Lee such a behemoth. Obviously, Omos on the outside eventually helped AJ Styles, and then Riddle was flying in from nowhere. We had a sudden death triple threat match. I have no idea why WWE started calling it sudden death. The rules were exactly the same. Keith was then back in charge, and he threw Styles so hard across the ring he went flying to the outside, and he must have got a kick out of that because he did the same thing with Riddle, and then he picked up Riddle's carcass and he was using it as a weapon. I will enjoy that until the day that I die. It all came down to a strike battle between Lee and Riddle, and amazingly, Riddle got the better of that, but this was easily solved because Riddle used to be a mixed martial arts competitor, but unfortunately for him, as soon as that had happened, AJ Styles arrived with the phenomenal forearm, and he pinned Riddle for the 1, 2, 3, and this now means we're going to get Drew McIntyre versus AJ Styles at the TLC pay-per-view, and that is fine by me. You may recall a couple of months ago, this is the direction I said WWE should head, so it's nice to get there eventually. It just feels really fresh. Plus, both Drew McIntyre and AJ Styles have really defined roles. Easy peasy, lemon squeezy. Haven't said that since I was about 12. Miz and Morrison were then in the back pretending they had a big plan for later, when Morrison did come out with a plan, and they walked off. Great. And then because Dana Brooke had slapped Ali earlier, we were having Reckoning taking on Dana. I mean, it was honestly just like picking those names out of a hat and just going with whatever the hell they said. Down. It went around about 2 minutes, and even though this was Reckoning or Mia Yim's first match ever since she's been doing the Retribution gimmick, she lost to the most devastating move in all of sports entertainment, the surprise roll-up. Pull down the board. That is number 98. 98. We have 2 to go. You know what happened? We'll get to 99, then WWE will troll us, but still, how many surprise roll-ups do we need, and why don't wrestlers ever learn. Seriously though, Brooke should not have won. There was no need. Also, Mia Yim's mask kept falling off, so that was absolute nonsense. And Ali yelled at her afterwards, and he probably should have gone, how did you lose to the most devastating move in all of sports entertainment? Do you not watch the show? My gosh. We then had another skit in the back with Miz Morrison and now AJ Styles, and I actually quite like this because it really did tease what could happen in the main event. Because they were like, look, come on, if you help us and you help me cash in, you can then take on me rather than Drew McIntyre. And AJ agreed. Miz and Morrison were like, wait, why did you agree so easily? And right in front of him, AJ went, well, I'd much rather take on you, Miz, than Drew McIntyre. That would be a piece of cake. I liked it all. There was also some jokes about a peach pie that Omos called a muffin. You don't need to worry about it. MVP then broke his promise. What an absolute asshat. Because he had promised Riddle he could have 2 weeks to pitch some ideas to the Hurt Business, and here, Bobby Lashley and him just whipped Riddle's ass. Because MVP turned up and insulted Riddle for losing the match, and then Riddle was like, well, at least I was in the thing. What was Bobby Lashley doing? As it turned out, Bobby Lashley was just getting really, really mad so he could pop up here and apply the Hurt Lock. So there it is. There's your brand new United States program. It's going to be Bobby Lashley taking on Riddle. I think it's okay. The only thing that irked me a little bit is there's nothing worse than when you go after the big belt, the world title, you fail, and then you just go after another one because you're instantly being told, well, the world championship is really important, and the US title, meh, it's kind of okay. There's nothing wrong with pretending they both count as huge prizes. It will be a pretty good feud. Keith Lee, for no reason, then approached Sheamus and went, me and some of the boys think you're planning to turn on Drew McIntyre. What do you have to say about that? I mean, what is happening? Why would he care? What, have we been talking to Hornswoggle? Has Hornswoggle been running around going, oh, I know a little something, I'm gonna tell you. Because apparently that's how he talks. This is when WWE just does, well, they make things too obvious. He may as well have come in with a sign that said, watch out for the heel turn. Tease it with what people say or the actions that they do. Don't make it so damn obvious. You take away all the fun. It was then our main event and a promo from our WWE champion, however, and all of it was good. McIntyre reminded us that the only reason he did lose to Roman Reigns was because of Jey Uso, and that war isn't done, and said to the Miz, look Miz, definitely do not cash in your Money in the Bank briefcase. That's the only reason you're relevant. You'll try, you'll lose, and then you'll be back in the shadows. That's a good line. As for the match too, it was fine. I enjoyed seeing Drew and Sheamus as a tag team. I thought WWE was going to pull the trigger way sooner than they are, so that can build. AJ Styles was on commentary being his asshole self. Because of that, Omos was out here too, kind of causing a distraction. It had everything you need. Morrison threw Sheamus over the barricade at one point, and Tom Phillips treated that like there was fire on the other side. He was like, oh my God, I can't believe it. I was like, dude, it's just a floor. What the hell is the problem? And of course, it ended with a disqualification when AJ Styles once again popped up from nowhere and hit the phenomenal forearm onto Drew McIntyre. Now, this only sucked because WWE does this over and over and over again, but in terms of the narrative, it made all the sense in the world because AJ had said to The Miz, hey, I'll help you cash in your Money in the Bank. What better way to kick it off than hitting the champion with your finishing move? And it opened the door for that cash in, and fair play to The Miz. You get a round of applause because he was all ready to cash it in, but because AJ Styles had told him to do it, The Miz was like, well, no, I'm not going to do it now. Nobody tells me what to do. I will do it on my own time. Then stood around, he looked at his watch and he went, all right, I'll do it now. Unfortunately, he had taken too long though, because just as he was ready to do it, Drew McIntyre was back on his feet and he whooped everybody's ass, because that's what he should do. He's at the top of the top of the top of the top. He then looked at AJ and was like, well, now I gotta beat your ass. And AJ Styles, just being the greatest heel ever, kind of flipped over the top rope, was grabbed by Omos over his shoulder, and as he was taking him away, AJ was shouting, oh, if it wasn't for this situation, I would get in there and I would beat you down. Some people have said this made AJ Styles look like a moron. Yes, that's the whole point. You're not meant to like him. I was incredibly sports entertained, and honestly, I am super duper excited for that match. Also, at this point, we have to say, AJ Styles may actually be a better heel than he is a face, and at times he has been the quintessential babyface. What a great character he truly really is. Which brings us to the end of Monday Night Raw, and once again, it really is just a tale of two halves. When WWE drops the ball, you get absolute gibberish, but the match quality is through the roof. Even something like Xavier Woods versus Cedric Alexander, it's great. You have a good time watching it. I don't know. The whole up and down system has been completely balked by this, but I'm feeling in a good mood today, so it's gonna get an up. And to be honest, that's mostly because I'm excited for AJ Styles versus Drew McIntyre. Now, don't forget to leave a comment below and let us know what you thought about last night's episode of Raw. Plus, head over to that community poll and vote for this week's Retro Ups and Downs. Like the video, share the video, and subscribe. Then go to WhatCulture.com, read yourself some articles, follow WhatCulture on Twitter, WhatCulture WWE, and watch more videos here on WhatCulture Wrestling. My name is Simon for WhatCulture. Thank you for joining me as always. And you know what? I'll see ya the next time you click one of my videos. That's the kind of relationship we have.